Have you got the hump with speed bumps? With an estimated 100,000 bumps across the country, the topic creates a passionate debate between drivers. The most popular speed bump is the cushion, but there's nothing more uncomfortable than travelling over one of these, causing discomfort to passengers, drivers and their wallets, with more than 30% of cars failing their MOTs due to inverted pothole damage. Rising evidence of essential vehicle delays such as ambulances and fire engines delaying their time by 10 seconds per hump. The other side of the debate is a positive reduction in speed and accidents, with a 53 to 60% decrease in fatal injury when a child is hit by a car. So what is your opinion on road humps?
Well, I've had problems recently with my own car. I've actually had to replace half of the front suspension on my car, and I'm pretty sure it's due down to the road humps.
How well do you think that speed bumps work in slowing down traffic?
Personally, well, I mean, they do slow down traffic. Problem is that it can slow down traffic, but there's also the fact that it doesn't slow down traffic. You get people that will just drive straight over them. You've got a 4x4, you're going straight over it at high speeds. You're not going to be slowing down for it. Personally, I think the contraflow system that they use, where you've only got a priority on one side of the road, is a lot more effective than speed bumps.
So what would you like to see happen? Would you like to see them removed, or...?
It's a difficult one. I mean, for instance, in Colleydene, where I am just now, to get from my house to the primary school, which is only a quarter of a mile away, you've got to go over 14 speed bumps to get round there. If you were to go around the Colleydene circuit, which is to go all the way through from top Colleydene to bottom Colleydene, 26 speed bumps between there, and it's only about a mile's bit of road. That's a little bit over the top. I mean, yes, speed bumps could be there, nowhere near as many as what there are. It's ridiculous.
The purpose of speed bumps is essentially to reduce traffic speed to more appropriate levels, and by doing that we can actually reduce casualties, and we can reduce the severity of casualties as well as saving lives. Now in Fife, the majority of speed bumps are used within 20 mph zones, which are now covering about 80% of our residential areas. We've been currently involved in a campaign called Put the Heart Back into Our Communities. The information is in this leaflet, and basically what we're trying to do is not just reduce traffic speed for the sake of it, it's about improving the quality of the environment of these residential areas. They're mostly all within areas where schools are, and so they include safer routes to school for children walking. We're trying to encourage and make the environment safer for people to walk more and cycle where that's appropriate. So it not only is good sense in terms of road safety, it's good sense in terms of improving our environments.
So how effective are the speed bumps in achieving this?
The speed bumps are proving very effective in achieving this. Fife first started increasing the number of speed cushions and bumps we have in Fife around about 2003. And prior to that, there have been a number of national trials where results are showing that in areas where speed humps have been used as part of 20 mph zones, for example, casualties have reduced by 60%. Now that's an incredible reduction, and it's something that we are seeing beginning to be echoed here in Fife. Crash and casualty outcomes are really what we should be focusing on. Speed humps themselves, for what they are, aren't really the issue. The issue is what benefits do we get from them and what are the outcomes. The outcomes we're getting in Fife is that we've already exceeded the national 2010 targets for casualty reduction. And we're also seeing with some of the zones that we've introduced some significant reductions in casualties that match some of the national pilots that have been going on. We've reduced traffic speed in these zones, wherein 81% of traffic was exceeding 20 to 25 miles per hour. We've now significantly reduced that, and so this is coming through in our crash and casualty statistics, which is a good news story for Fife.
So how do you assess an area where to put speed bumps into?
The prime objective really, as I said at the outset, is to reduce speed to appropriate levels. If we're talking about 20 mph zones, we really need to do a speed survey as a starting point to establish what the speed values are within that residential area. I mean, if we're finding that traffic speed is already down around 20 to 25 miles per hour, there may not be the need to impart as much physical traffic calming by introducing things like speed humps. But in many cases, with the residential areas that we have in Fife, many of them have been designed many years ago, and a number of them are wide, long, straight streets. In these type of situations, we do usually find that we have to put some physical traffic calming to bring those speeds down, and the key here is to make them self-enforcing. That's something that we discussed with ACPOS, the Association of Chief Police Officers in Scotland, and it's a necessity really that we make these zones reasonably self-enforcing so that the humps are actually a very effective way of naturally reducing traffic speed.
You don't think you're using too many speed bumps? Is there not like an alternative that you could be using?
In terms of the number and alternative to speed humps, the design principles follow national guidance in terms of where we should use them and how many we should use and what spacing they're at. But we also use professional judgment in terms of what the characteristics of the areas and the streets are. Where, for example, there's lots of parking take place, or streets are already narrow and windy, as we're finding in some of the newer housing developments, there may not be a need to use so many physical features. Traffic speed would more naturally be at that lower level in those circumstances. In terms of alternatives to speed humps come into, I suppose, what you would call generically vertical traffic calming. They're built above the level of the road. The other type of generic traffic calming feature would be horizontal measures, as in curb build-outs or chicanes, give and take arrangements, that type of thing. And we do use those. We have a number of zones that are supported by those type of measures. Each of them have their place. The horizontal measures are less effective, usually in many of our residential areas where traffic volumes are low and we don't have opposing traffic flows that are pretty regular, in which case we find that traffic speeds don't come down. Whereas with vertical measures like speed humps, in those situations, they're proving very, very effective in bringing speeds down. So it's a matter of judgment in terms of what the nature of the area is.
So what about motorist cars? They're obviously being damaged by the speed bumps.
This is an issue that a number of people do raise. And it very much depends on individual circumstances and how people are driving their car, how they're approaching speed cushions, how they're negotiating them. But in general terms, that's something that any local authority would obviously have a great interest in and be satisfied that we've catered for that issue before we move out and develop these zones with 20 mile per hour zones and with speed cushions. The government, the Department for Transport, a few years ago commissioned the Transport Research Laboratory to undertake a series of tests and trials on speed cushions just to analyse this very thing. Those trials were conducted with a variety of vehicles over a range of different types of speed hump and cushion, and the vehicles were basically driven over a range of different speeds from 10 to 40 miles per hour. And there was a whole series of analytical tests done to check for damage to the vehicles. The conclusion from all of that was that the vehicles sustained no more wear and tear or damage than would normally be expected of any vehicle within a normal driving environment. And so that's part of the government advice to local authorities in terms of using speed humps, and we certainly put in great store in that.
It's clear to see that speed bumps do cause problems between us motorists, however they do save lives. And until another form of speed control comes along, it looks like they're here to stay. I'm Connie Davidson reporting for Channel 5.